Carson Beck was 27 and 50, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Trevor Etienne, 12 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Joe, I got to be real with you from the Georgia aspect. You showed me a lot of heart.
Yeah.
You showed me a lot of heart. And let me tell you this. Everybody going into the game because of everything that's going on in Georgia, I mean, everybody has told us on the show with comments that the culture's fractured because look what happens to them off the field. If you don't have good culture last night, you do not come back in that game. But, Joe, they do take the lead late in the fourth quarter by 1, but then it slipped through their hands. When you look at this from a Georgia lens, how do you see it?
To what you just said, yes, the resilience that they showed where it looked like they had no energy and they were unfocused in the first half, credit goes to that team to stepping up to the challenge. There are many teams in this country that would completely just sit down and take the beating that they're being given. Kirby Smart reminded us why he's such a great coach, for being able to make adjustments in that way to fight his team back into the game. Where I'm going to be critical, it has to be brought up, this weird inability by Mike Bobo to run the football and establish the run early in these games.
Joe, they started scoring when they started giving Etienne the football. I mean, let's just be honest.
It's incredibly concerning, and that was why they allowed Alabama to jump to such a quick lead. They weren't trying to establish control. They weren't trying to establish the line of scrimmage. They were coming out. The first play of the game, you're throwing the ball. Multiple early series in this game, you're throwing the ball a ton. As soon as what you just talked about here, you weren't like getting completely stopped at the line of scrimmage running the football. Etienne was having some success. You were having some success in the run game. Why Bobo feels this need to try and throw on so many downs, it's killing them. It caused them to have a slow start against Kentucky, and it almost cost them the football game. And it honestly, it cost them the game here. I'm not going to jump and scream and say, like some Georgia fans are, that Bobo's got to go, but he is overthinking this right now. He is completely overthinking this. Adjustments need to be made. You brought in Trevor Etienne. I know that you're down Tate Ratledge, and you might be dealing with an injury to Jared Wilson, your center. I don't know what the situation is there because he went down late in the game. But you have to try to establish the run to win. This is old school principles. It's the most simple coach speak that we could throw out there. If you're throwing the ball too much and you're forcing throwing the ball too much, defenses are just going to sit back and wait. You allowed them to get into a defensive rhythm, and you allowed their offense to eat up and make so many big plays because they had the ball so often and so quickly. So that they have to do a better job of running the football, Blake. That is so bad the way that they started this game.
Here's the thing to what you're saying. It doesn't excuse a very bad decision-making by Carson Beck, especially early in the game.
That's fair.
Okay, because I look at their first possession of the game. Okay, Carson Beck gets a completion to Trevor Etienne. Etienne fumbles, and they recover. Okay, but you're throwing that on 2nd and 10 where you got to dump it off. They get a penalty, and then Carson Beck throws a bad interception in the first drive of the game. It started spinning out of the control. Joe, their second drive, Carson Beck incomplete to Dylan Bell, incomplete to Trevor Etienne, intercepted by Damani Jackson. I mean, Joe, at some point, like, I look at this game and say the first half for Carson Beck, he was making horrible decisions. And I
would agree with that, but I would argue he was getting hung out to dry by the play calling. To some extent, not completely.
Joe, he threw multiple passes that should have been picked off into bad coverages. That's not play calling. That's making bad throws.
Fair.
Right? Like, I mean, like, that's not – I mean, we can blame Mike Bobo all we want. Well, let me ask you this. Who brought him back? Because, I mean, if we're going to be honest, they led in the fourth quarter, and Bobo was scheming things up for him to throw. I mean, like, he's making very bad decisions. So, look, I thought the turning point when this game is, to your point, they're down 28-0. Joe, they got an 11-play, 75-yard drive. You want to know how that went? Etienne run 11 yards. Etienne run 5 yards. Etienne run 7 yards. Etienne run 8 yards. Etienne run 9 yards. By the way, majority of his chunk of yardage came on that drive. Here's another thing, too, Joe, about Georgia. I thought from that point on, when they finally scored, they were able to feel some momentum. The defense gets an interception. You're not able to capitalize on it. You get a safety that's really bad by Carson. And that's another thing. I thought Bobo on the safety, that's a bad play call. It's a very bad play call. Yeah. You're running verts on your own 3-yard line, but Carson Beck's got to know to hit his check down, Joe. It's not like this kid hasn't been here for a while, right? Like it's not – his inefficiency and bad decision-making in the first half cost them the football game. They were able to battle back, and I thought it was really good. I'll give them that. They fought. They came all the way back to take the lead. Here's the thing, though, Joe. Even though they were very bad in the first half and Carson Beck made really bad decisions, that offense did not give up that long pass to Ryan Williams at the end to lose the football game. And that is – look, I hate to say it like this, but that is not typical Georgia defense. It's not. I know that they played a lot of plays – but how do you not know that Ryan Williams, they're going to try to get him the football in an explosive play? That's on Kirby. That's getting out coached by DeBoer. And I thought, quite honestly, if we're going to – and I didn't talk about this in the Bama part of the section. I thought Kalen DeBoer out-coached Kirby Smart from the beginning.
Oh, yes.
To the end of it. Now, in the second half, DeBoer almost got out-schemed because Georgia went 5 for 5 on 4th down. And DeBoer, I felt like DeBoer was feeling the moment, and he was like, just get out of here. Just get out of here. Just get out of here. And so there are a lot of things, a lot of chess pieces, but the first half inefficiency is what ultimately beat Georgia. Because if they can do – look, it's not that they don't have playmakers. Joe, you're down 28-7. You can't tell me you don't have playmakers when you're having to throw the ball all over the place and you're making plays. That's a bullshit excuse. The bad decision-making by Beck was what beat him.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. I don't want to be too I'm trying to be better about being critical of players. So like I don't want to completely go down on Carson Beck. I agree with you that his mistakes cost them.
It's not being rude to say.
No, I know. I'm not saying that you're doing that. I'm just saying that he didn't play great. He's going to bounce back. He's a good football player. My final thought on this game, to just reiterate what was brought up, I think this game hinges on the way and the lack of willingness to run the ball early and to try and establish the run is so blatantly in front of our faces as the reason why Georgia lost this football game. They had to chase their way to get back into it, and the evidence is there.
And they did.
What you just painted right there is that when they started to say, even though they were down by a ton of points, they said, let's try to run the football now, which is kind of a slap in the face that they waited that long to try to run the football. They can't keep doing that. They have to. Next game that they play, when they play Texas, I want to see your first offensive drive. I want to see 5, 6, 7 carries. Just run the ball. Even if you punt, just try to establish the run. You have to be more physical, and you have the ability to be physical. And for some reason, Bobo is overthinking things.
Their third down play calling is abysmal.
It's bad. It's almost like by the final just close.
And it's mixed with very bad decision-making by Carson Beck. Now, Joe, Trevor Etienne had 55 yards rushing. 25 of that came on one drive when you're down 28-0.
Yeah. They can't maintain. I think that here is the way that it kind of reads to me. It feels like Bobo is sitting in this situation and he's like, I've got this first round quarterback who decided to come back, who's an upperclassman, and he's been around for a while. I'm going to let him go out there and put the game on his shoulders. Carson Beck is a great quarterback, but I don't think he's the same level of guy that can do that like Jalen Milroe, like Cam Ward.
Heavens no.
He needs a good run game. He can't be doing everything and throwing the ball 50 times. He's not that type of guy.
Joe, let's back it up. I'm going to push back on that, okay? And I know we're spending a long time on this game, but it's a massive game here. I'm going to push back. Then explain them taking the lead 34-33. Because the God's honest truth is, let's go to the second half very quickly. Okay, here's the second half. Punt, Alabama. Touchdown, Georgia, one play, touchdown, Georgia.
I'm not saying he's incapable.
Is down the stretch, Carson Beck, for what it's worth, and Mike Bobo. Okay, 6 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. Punt, Alabama. 4 plays, 78 yards. Punt, for Georgia, touchdown. Punt, Alabama. The truth of the matter is, it's a tale of two halves, brother.
Blake, I'm not saying. Wait, hold on. I'm not saying that he's incapable. All I'm just trying to point out is in the second half when they were much more balanced and everything wasn't on him. That like we're gonna throw the ball 20 times in the first half, or however many times they threw it in the first half. When they decided to be more balanced was when they were having an easier time moving the ball down the field. That's the better version of Carson Beck, and that's why we saw 2 different versions of him in this game. I'm not saying he's bad, and I'm not saying he's overrated. That's not what I'm saying. But he's the type of quarterback that you need to open up the offense as the game progresses by setting things up for him.
Yeah.
He's not going to scramble for a 30-yard gain like Jalen Milroe can if everything is locked down.
No, I'm with you. I 100% agree with that. The only thing I'm going to say, though, about this, with Bama fans, if they're not going to be, because it's a massive win, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand that you were still down. If your offense didn't open it back up there in the second half, you would have lost that football game. All I'm going to say. All right.
Yeah.
Want to move to Ole Miss and Kentucky? There was a long time to spend on it, but it was well worth it.
This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training is expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code Ruffino Joe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there.